Hello and welcome to Lazy Language. As promised, I'm continuing the series with layering I did, as it goes for a sandwich of languages, so it's tasty and fun to learn. And in this video, I'm gonna address one of the core aspects of my learning process and also teaching process that involves pictures. And it's part of the bread that I call the mindset of learning languages, which gives you the structure of how this sandwich analogy could fit in some structure to be like a sandwich. So the thing I'm gonna address is that it's fairly obvious, but it bears repeating that we think in pictures. When I say La Casa, there's a blank space in everyone's head because this is combination of sounds and mouth movements that doesn't represent anything. But when I say house, everyone immediately thinks of a house, the house they grew up in, or the house they are living in, or the house they like the design of, or they mush all of this together and make like a fantasy house with like the garden from their childhood house, or the balcony or the terrace is from like a house they like, or something like that. But what is interesting to me in this process is that you don't build up a house in your imagination without being inspired by something real in real life. And this is how we learn things. We have this type of learning that you record a picture of something outside, and when you want to recall it, you replay that image with some like tweaks here and there based on your personality, your preferences, and stuff like that. But the core image is what you record from outside. So when this happens, and we go blank on some words or some, like, I'm gonna call it mouth movements because it's different mouth movements than like saying house when you say la casa, which is house in Spanish. So when you go blank on this kind of word or mouth movement and immediately associate a picture to the already known concept of a house, you are, for the next time, you're building cells of recognition that you hear la casa. Okay, now the same image of a house has a new title, new mantle, new label to address it. So this is building cells of recognition. But this is just for vocabulary. This is just for random words. But we could expand and extend this line of thoughts for, this is how our mind works. We work with images. And this is how we learn and how we identify the surrounding world around us. So to extend this to like things or grammars or like idioms or whatever it is, you need to go step by step. And by the way, I'm not, it bears repeating that I'm doing this in one take and pouring on my almost 8 years experience of learning multiple languages and giving my own thoughts and my own 2 cents on it, and trying to help people see languages as this like easy thing. You just go and you visit a museum and you see new things, and now, okay, now you have pictures of those new things in your head. Languages are literally like this. You go into a museum, you see a lot of things, and you remember the most important things to you. Maybe this is like a naked picture you saw. Maybe this is a very like modern art you saw. Something stands out to you to get emotionally involved with in order to remember it. For example, I was playing this new game called Zenless Zone Zero the other day, and some characters I immediately remember their name, but some I struggled to remember because they didn't stand out to me. And that's how languages and everything in process of learning works. As I mentioned in my last video, learning is just a quest for finding the answer of questions we actually want to find the answers for. So we are emotionally involved with the concept, and learning is us elaborating on this concept. And what happens with multiple languages, you view the already existing world from different points of views, different angles, different perspectives. So when you associate the already existing pictures with new mantles, new titles, new words, it's easy because you're not building something from scratch. You're not discovering a new thing. You're just discovering a new name. You're associating an already existing cosmos, universe, existence with new words. So languages are that easy. But the way to learn needs to be following the same logic. You don't learn vocab by associating picture to words, but go and learn verb conjugation in a vacuum, or grammars and like difficult past, future tense, or the importance of object and subjects in multiple languages in a vacuum, which is what happens most of the time. So in this video, I'm gonna try my best to give you an idea, an introduction to this model of thinking in pictures when it comes to every element of a language. I already touched upon the vocabulary part of things, and I'm gonna elaborate on more on vocabulary, grammar, and even the idioms, and even the culture, and even the verb conjugations of every single language. Because what's important is that you are using this new system, and you are dodging some of the difficulties in this system, but keeping it partially where it's actually useful. This doesn't work because if you are going to, let's say, if you're going to go with this analogy of 4-3-3 in a match, and you find you are weighing heavily on the attacking side and attacking like prowess of your players, you don't back down and go to defensive shape. Yeah, you go through a defensive phase of a game when it's necessary, but you don't shift the whole system just to get defensive. You implement the defensive mechanisms into the already existing attacking side. So what happens with languages as well is learning in pictures is the best way to simplify an already proven methods of learning, not learning languages, learning. We learn in pictures. We associate random words, random mouth movements to identify and to set apart set of pictures or set of video clips or GIFs or whatever it is in outside world to identify it separately from different things. You don't call a window a door. You don't call a door a window, because window is a set of syllables designed to give you this clear image of a window. I know this is not rocket science, but most of people like don't even think about this because it's so like basic. And what happens is we forget the basics and we struggle with the complex stuff. But when you realize the basics are what makes those complex notions, you are now ready to learn it. Okay, it's not a building. It's not like a new entity. It's just thousands of like blocks of like cement or like whatever it is on top of bricks on top of each other, cemented like bricks on top of each other. So it's now a building because you don't identify each and every single brick as a building, but you identify that to set apart 2 or 3 blocks of bricks from thousands of blocks of bricks, you now call it a building. You don't call an ocean because it's a separate entity from water. You call it to separate it from, okay, now we call an infinite amount of water, droplets of water, an ocean. So this is the mentality to address everything in a new language. The vocabulary part is very simple because you just say, okay, dog, and instead of saying dog, don't let's not betray my own philosophy and go with cat. When you say cat or kot in Russian, instead of saying cat, kot, you now say, okay, cat means these fluffy little things that I enjoy playing with and stuff like that, and it's very cute. And you imagine your cat, your neighbor's cat, whatever it is, a cat, and then say, okay, I'm now gonna call this little thing kot as well as cat, or as well as katze and any other words. So what happens is, instead of changing the label, which is the easiest part, which makes us identify the picture outside of realm of changing the labels change, but the image and the picture remains the same. So it gives us the solid ground to stand on, and then you now call it by a different name. The identity is the same. Now you just associate a new word to it. So with the vocabulary is just simple as that. But when it comes to like verb conjugation, for example, I was recently talking to a friend of mine and I was teaching him how to learn Spanish. And I told him, hey, conjugate bailar for me, which is dance, to dance. And he was like, bailo, bailas, baila, bailamos, and just making so many awkward sounds just to like struggle conjugating a verb. And I told him, hey, just imagine you are doing like dancing moves, and you're doing dancing moves, and you're in a Spanish sitting that no one understands you. And you're gonna say, okay, I'm dancing. And you now associate bailo, which is the mantle, which is the title, with this clip or with this video clip or even gif of dancing in your head, because it doesn't make sense to say bailo without thinking of anything. Because in real life, when you are you're gonna actually use this in practice, you don't call someone who is like jogging dancing, because you associate this verb of dancing with the appropriate setting. So why not learn it the same way? When you are trying to conjugate dancing, I don't say like start dancing, maybe it helps, but just imagine what dancing actually means. So then, instead of saying dancing, I dance, you dance, same thing with the vocabulary part. Instead of saying dancing, I dance means yo bailo, and remembering it the same way, just say, okay, this activity, this picture, this video clip in my head is associated with this word, this like phrase, I dance. So now the same activity is going to be associated with what? With another sentence, yo bailo. And to make it even easier, imagine yourself telling someone, hey, you're dancing, tú bailas. So instead of saying tú bailas in a vacuum, in like outside of this universe even, you put yourself in the actual situation that you're going to be using that. And you learn it so fast, and it's so nonchalant that way, because you're not struggling. You're actually using it in a setting that you're going to be, in fact, using it in the future. Maybe not dancing, but comer, like eating, or the same daily stuff we do. So this is the verb conjugation part, which is seemingly similar to what happens with the vocabulary part. But the next thing is the complex grammars. For example, some languages require direct and indirect object, and some of them don't even need that. So how I teach it to people and how I learn it myself is that I say, okay, being, to be, or to sleep. The notion of sleep, or coucher in French, let's use like variety of words. The notion of slapen or schlafen doesn't need anything. You could sleep just with a picture of me closing my eyes, and that's it. Yeah, I might be not alive, or I might be like in a coma or something, but our bias of mind, which which associates the closed eyes picture to notion of sleeping rather than death or something similar, that is the possibility, of course, helps us to understand, okay, we just need a picture of sleeping, us or someone else, just closed eyes to imagine sleeping. So this doesn't need anything, not a direct object, not an indirect object. Being is the same. But when you say reading, you never can imagine the activity of reading unless you assume I'm reading a newspaper, I'm reading the text I got, I'm reading a book, I'm reading an article. you need something to read. So now the picture is not complete. You need another thing to complete the notion and the concept of reading. So now you need the direct object. And it works with everything. Like the other day, I was talking to one of my friends, and I was telling him, hey, imagine walking. Do you need anything to walk? No, you just paint a picture of slow motion of like walking in your head, and it's like a frozen picture even. That implies, okay, you are walking. You don't need the street. You don't need anything. You don't need even a surface, because surface is not associated with the concept of walking. So you don't need anything. And that's how languages work. In every single language, walking, sleeping, and like being, I am, doesn't require any object, direct or indirect. And when you say, okay, I'm looking, you need to look at something, or helping, you need to help someone. And I'm gonna go in details with that in a bit. But you actually, I'm using this word like actually like 4,000 times a day now, but it is what it is. You in fact are identifying the verbs that need direct object, indirect object, or not even a single object 70% of time correctly with this strategy, because these systems, these perspectives on outside world are in a system of their own. They have like, there is a rhyme for a reason. There is like a reason for this madness. So this is actually like, here's it again. This is en effet what happens. So you're not creating a mind puzzle for yourself, but finding the patterns of already existing puzzles. And that's the direct object. So what, Chef, what about indirect object? Indirect objects are different in every single language. Yes, they are different in every single language, but 70 to 80% still is the same. For example, in every language, helping is not solved with just a direct object. You need an indirect object too, or you just need the indirect object. Because imagine someone is drowning and you are extending your hand to help him. This does not say helping, even if our minds are biased towards it. The reality is not, because this is not helping. Maybe you are pushing him. Maybe you are ready to jump with him. So what I use to distinguish between direct and indirect objects is, for direct object, the picture is not complete unless you need one more detail, or an object to perform this activity, this verb on. So it gets solved with the complete picture of adding a book, a newspaper, or looking at something, or whatever. But when you are talking about indirect object, the picture is not enough. The picture is not enough. You need a video clip or a GIF of someone extending their hands and taking your hand and pulling you out. Or as my friend recently suggested, you need more details, more than just the direct object. For example, you extend your hand and you have this dialogue of, okay, take my hand. These two components now make you realize, okay, now the concept of helping is finished. Whatever suits suits your fancy. For me, it's easier to see it as a GIF or video clip in my head. That helps me a lot to learn languages and to learn like concepts. So what happens is, when you associate, okay, every single verb that needs a clip or a GIF needs an indirect object, like 90% of time, and it's easier for you to to know by heart the exceptions that are, like, as it said, exceptions, and like in exceptional cases, in fewer of the cases than the usual, rather than know every single verb by heart. Okay, this is a dative verb, this is like nominative, and this is like accusative in case of Germany, or this uses like objet indirect, and this uses like objet direct, objetivo directo, objetivo indirecto. In no matter the language, the system is still the same. You need to either memorize every single verb and their typing, which takes a lot of time and effort and a lot of practice and repetition, because side tangent, you either learn in 5 years, or you either learn some language or anything in 5 years, or fairly long amounts of time, or you learn it in 5 months. There is a faster way to do anything in the world. So to find the fastest way that doesn't affect the results is the smart way. This is what being smart means. And you just don't need to be smart to act smart. You just need to provide the results faster than others to be choosing the smart way. And this is the smartest way for learning any language. And so to recap this section of associating pictures and clips and video clips and GIFs to identify direct and indirect objects, and you say, okay, when I don't need anything to complete the picture of this verb doesn't need anything. For example, running. You just imagine someone is running and take a picture out of their running shape. That's running. That's the concept. You don't need to add anything, any object, any direct or indirect object to imply the verb of running in like 90% of languages. And you could memorize the 10% rather than the whole thing. But when you need, okay, I need like eat. I need to eat. You don't eat air. Even air is a subject. So you assume, okay, he's eating a hamburger. He is eating whatever it is, lollipop, whatever it is. But you need something to complete the picture of concept of eating. So this is your direct object. This is the picture of lollipop in one's hands. And for indirect object, is like enjoying. When you have the picture of eating and someone smiles, it's more details than just one object, or is a GIF of someone eating and smiling, so he is enjoying. Now you know, okay, this is actually, here's it again. Évidemment, this is évidemment verb in need of indirect object as well as direct object. So this is kind of like gives you an idea of both practicing associating verbs and just mouth movements at the end of the day to pictures and to imagery, be it GIFs or video clips, whatever. And then you have now the pattern to realize, okay, 70% of verbs in every single language. I know like 5 or 6 languages, but this works for every single language because the basic of a language is just to describe the outside world. And no matter how different they are built upon the set rules. For example, every language needs a subject because you do something and someone is doing that thing. Crazy, right? So this is how associating pictures with like this basic grammar of, which is the hardest grammar in most of the languages, because they appear to be different, and one verb is like apparently dative in this like language, but in another language, what does dative even mean? Does it mean like indirect object? Does it mean direct object? Does it mean both? So these different like naming systems for the same construct confuses people, but it's the same thing. I remember when I was learning like French, and it was a nightmare to understand, okay, this is indirect, this is direct. Okay, what happens when we have both? Which one comes first? Okay, for like 1-2 or 1-2 conjugation of me and you, there is a specific order, but when it shifts to the third person, it switches. And I had to memorize all of this like in years or like in months to understand it. But had I known this, okay, what does this verb represent? Okay, how do I imagine this verb functioning? For example, the concept of gratitude. Gratitude is not like a picture, it's a concept. So you need to show gratitude. So not only it's not a picture itself, so it doesn't need any like object, direct or indirect. You don't need one thing to show gratitude. You don't have this picture of you giving flower to someone to show gratitude. Maybe you are gifting them. You need a whole like imagery behind it. So gratitude is in need of both direct and indirect object. You show gratitude for something in front of someone, or for some reason because of something, you know. So this simplifies the more complex stuff in every single language. So I was gonna like elaborate more on the whole concept of thinking in imagery, but I see now I need to leave the like more grammars like the past tense, future tense, and present tense for another video. So this is gonna be the part 1 video of the imagery thinking, and I'm gonna also I'm also gonna leave the I'm gonna leave the like culture part for another video. So in this video, to recap again, we discussed association of words to pictures when it comes to I'm going fully hoarse now. To vocabulary, and I also gave you an example of basic grammars that you could do the same, verb conjugation and identifying direct and indirect object in every single language, most of the languages, at least most part of every single language, Jesus. And hopefully this wasn't like too much of a calculus problem and too complex for you to understand. I tried to make examples here and there to make it simpler to digest, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for sharing a minute of your day with me. It means a lot. I'm just trying to make this like awareness about learning languages without going to like guru stuff and learn language in 24 hours, which is hilarious. And if you like the video, share, subscribe, comment, and all that jazz. If you didn't like the video, reflect on life, be a better person. Yeah, I'm gonna guilt trip you to that. And just share down below if you agree with what I'm saying. Is it like eye-opening, eye-closing? It doesn't affect your eyesight or whatever. I'm just here to teach what I know, and more importantly, learn what I don't. So if you have anything to share, regardless of disagreeing or agreeing with my point of view, elaborate on your points, and let's learn together. Spread the word lazy language. It's just the start of a very huge program. I feel it in my bones, and I'm not bullshitting you either. So have an overly day. Until the next one, chef is gonna go back to the kitchen and cook some more delicious linguistic eye-opening flavors for you. Till the next one, peace.